Good evening and welcome to another community forum. I'm your host Byron Campbell and of course Chris Diali, our co-host. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Brian. How are you?
I am good today.
Excellent. And good evening.
Did I say good? Very good.
Well, we live in paradise. Good evening to our viewers. It's a pleasure to be here and to welcome you and to be in your space at this evening's program. Thank you for being there.
Chris, the week turned around so quickly, man. Chris, of course, what's making the news is the situation in Victoria.
Yeah.
Shootings, guns, death, violence, very unfortunate. We have the loss of life, premature. I mean, it's premature to blame anyone. I think it's important that we have the proper investigation, the proper report, before acting or before blame. But certainly, let's have the investigation. But it's very unfortunate, I think.
Every situation where the police is involved and there's fatality in terms of shooting and so on is always unfortunate.
Yeah.
However, I like to say that we need to be patient and have the investigations done and understand exactly what has happened. And if there is blame to be assigned, assign the blame accordingly.
Yeah.
But rushing to judgment is not the proper thing to do. And, I always say I sympathize with our police in the sense that a police officer has to determine on the fly and at the moment how extensive the situation or how bad the situation is and what level of force is required. And we have a history in this country of fighting with the police, tearing off their shirt and treating them as though they're not persons of authority and treating them as though they're trash, quite frankly. And sometimes police will respond in a certain way and then the same public is upset at the response. But we sometimes pull those things out of our service people, and the Royal members of the Royal Grenadier Police Force. And at the end of the day, let the investigation take its time and be done, and then we could cast, if there is need to do something, we do it what is required. But I'm not, I am one that I think our police have a hard job to do and assess situations and see how
But Chris, the bigger issue, of course, is why are so many of our social activities married in violence?
Particularly in Victoria.
And in this particular event, not last year, but previous years, we've had
last year we had a similar violent thing to the Victoria
in this event or in subsequent years anyway. Yeah. So, and in other activities too, we see this type of thing. So this is a deterrent. People are going to say, look, I'm not going anywhere, I'm staying home. Well, I don't want to expose myself.
That too. And I mean, I was always saying, in other countries, if you saw what was going on in Guyana, with the looting and all the things going on with Guyana down there is this thing in the population where people have very little tolerance.
Yeah.
And they resort to violent activities and breaking shops and looting and so on. And then when the police comes with their response, I think the police is too heavy with their response. But the police are charged with upholding the law and executing as they ought to. So I sometimes are very hesitant to blame any side unless you understand the cause and, of course, the effect.
Chris, elections. We've had 2 elections recently, but let's start with the first. Our neighbors, Trinidad and Tobago, a landslide by the opposition, UNC. Of course, it was a very low turnout, 54%, very low, almost just about half of the people stayed away. Of course, we know in Trinidad, politics is along mainly racial lines, somewhat like Guyana, of course. But the pre-election polls, the prediction by Dunphy and Barnett and company predicted a win. Well, for the UNC, and they were crediting a movement of some votes by PNC voters to the UNC. But clearly, based on the kind of numbers we're seeing, the turnout that a lot of people simply did not vote. What do you make of it there?
Well, based on the statistics, we're seeing 100 and something thousand votes on the PNM side.
Yeah.
Didn't materialize in this election.
Yeah.
Although the last election in 2020, I think it was 58% compared to 54%. So that is significant for the PNM.
Yeah.
And, the Trinidad economy is not doing as good as it ought to. The major issue in Trinidad is crime. UNC didn't have a good record in solving the crime issue. So here is Kamala coming back in with the UNC, and you haven't heard her articulate on any platform what is the strategic approach to deal with the crime situation. So obviously this election would have gone along racial lines. The UNC supporters wouldn't change. And the question going forward now is how is Trinidad under the UNC is going to deal with some of these real vexing issues like crime and the economy and so on. And that is serious challenges going forward for Trinidad. I think the move that Mr. Rowley made with Mr. Young didn't go down well either. When he gave up and he transferred the prime ministership to Mr. Young, and Mr. Young, I don't know, felt that he inherited the prime ministership and going forward what that meant. So it is one of those things that the election results in Trinidad is going to influence, how it's going to influence the Caribbean politics going forward. Because Trinidad is a major player.
A major player. But interesting too that I know that the leader of the opposition, well, the losing party, the leader of the party has resigned. The chairman have resigned, and other officials, office holders. That's interesting compared to what had taken place in Grenada, when we had similar quote-unquote results.
Is now the leader of the opposition.
Opposition, exactly, yeah.
Two females, one prime minister and one leader of the opposition.
So is that woman's power?
Yeah, woman's power for sure.
Yeah, okay. Well, further north, we've had the elections, of course, the Canadian and a win for the Liberal Party. It is said that the Trump factor was instrumental in the results that we saw. Before the Trump rhetoric, the opposition, which is the Conservative Party, had a lead of over 20%. But since the Trump issue, talking about the 51st state and threatening Canadian sovereignty, this worked in the Liberals' favor.
Yeah,
and clearly a victory here.
Remember, the essence of Liberal parties versus conservative, like Trump Republican Party that is supposed to be conservative, is that the Liberals are more open-minded on a lot of topics, whereas Trump is not, unless conservative Republican Party.
Yeah.
So that in itself, the Liberals, the winning is a slap in the face of Mr. Trump and all the things that he wants to say next in Canada. And the Canadians are very serious about their nationality and their national pride. So you see what is happening with flights moving from Canada to the US. They have boycotted a lot of flights. A lot of the airlines have to cut their schedules because there just isn't people. And the states very close to the border are complaining that there's no tourism and things are really bad on the US side. And the Canadians are boycotting products from the US, and they're holding fast because they think Mr. Trump has insulted and disrespected them as a sovereign state. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens and how this guy, because this guy, the new guy, the Liberal guy in charge of the party, is a bright fellow in terms of economics. He's very skilled.
He headed the UK Central Bank and the Canadian Central Bank.
He's a skilled guy in terms of national economics and macroeconomics and how he manages. So it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
How this plays out.
Yeah, and whether Trump could continue his bullying tactics that he's doing in all these countries around the world.
Chris, we have an invasion in Grenada, not military, but sargassum weed. It is bad, particularly along the East Coast. In particular, it's everywhere, but particularly along the East Coast. Smelly, you're driving, and it's toxic. It's very uncomfortable, but it has an impact, economic, of course, on the whole fishing sector and the tourism sector in that area, in that you can't use the waters, But the government has had previously, there was some initiative announced to investigate, to undertake. I think the numbers I saw is that by 2026, the government intends to, through a project of some kind, to process over 10,000 tons of this weed. Presently, there are some activities to move some of this weed and store it. I'm not sure if it's in Telescope, I think, somewhere there. But clearly, it's a problem, not just for Grenada, but many of the regional states.
I can tell you one positive thing of it.
Yeah.
The seagulls are having fun. Because, the little fishes that get caught,
Exactly. But
they're
they use it,
excited and having
fishes
fun.
use this as a shade also, right?
Yeah,
It's
so
cool there.
the seagulls down by me very excited and
Yeah.
getting on and so. But you're right. I think the sargassum weed issue is going to be with us going forward. Every
It's here to
year,
stay.
some years it's less than others,
Yeah,
but we
yeah.
get in sargassum
Yeah,
invasion into
yeah,
the shores,
yeah.
and it is going to affect tourism with the smell
Yeah.
and so on. Thank God it's happening at a time when the tourist season is at its low, but nonetheless. And the fishing industry is going to suffer because the boats having a difficulty there at all they go out, and if they can't catch or they come back. So it's a lot of indirect issues that are not complementary. So the government needs to work assiduously and work faster. I know there was a company in Barbados, I believe, or St. Lucia, that came up with solutions on how to use the sargassum and to make feed and to make agricultural inputs and so on. And they were processing this and had equipment that went out and raked it up off the sea and processed and so on. So it is an area that I think we have to move with some speed and alacrity, because inhaling all this hydrogen sulfide gas, which is the sting gas that you're smelling, can be very upsetting for some people. And,
You could filter it in your car, of course. Just put up your glass and put your AC on, Chris.
No, you can't, because hydrogen sulfide gas requires specific filters to neutralize
So
it.
if I'm driving my glasses up, I'll still get it.
Yeah, once you have your AC and you pull in from the outside, your filter in your car is not no sufficient.
And on top of that, Chris, we have Sahara dust.
Yes.
You know, that is present also.
You're an agricultural man, Sahara
Yeah,
dust brings
it's
any
useful because
positive.
it brings in good nutrients, I understand.
Yeah?
Yeah. Chris, we've had our PM had a visit to Venezuela, first official visit actually. Press release from the PM's office said that oil and gas is not on the agenda. I wonder what was. That's interesting. I expected oil and gas to be on the agenda. But anyway, they said that, and according to release from the government, they said that the visit underscores the long-standing bilateral relationship between both nations. Cooperation across, they talk about various sectors, including agriculture, healthcare, education, and tourism. So we wait and see what kind of, I know there was a meeting with the Prime Minister with the nationals in Venezuela. That was a good thing. I wondered though when I saw that, what is Trump saying about this visit?
Well, let us hope the Prime Minister can get labor, because we have a serious problem with labor. If we can get some Venezuelans to come and work in construction and in agriculture, that'll be a positive thing. If oil and gas not on the agenda, of course.
Agriculture is.
And I can understand oil and gas not being there because of the problem with Guyana and CARICOM supporting the Guyana situation in Venezuela, trying to annex a section of Guyana. So I can understand that. But let us hope that culturally and otherwise the visit could turn out some positive things.
And I support that too. I mean, these are our neighbors, these are our friends, these are our economic cooperation, and I think regardless of what the US say, we have to show very clearly that, look, we intend to maintain our relationship with our friends and our partners. So I see this as a strong statement coming from Grenada.
We have to start looking south-south, as we have said before with Trump and his...
So Chris, we're going to take a short break now, and when we come back, tomorrow is Labor Day, of course, so guess what? We'll have with us the Daisy Hazzard. She's the president, of course, of the Public Workers Union, and President General of the Trade Union Council also. Andrea may join us. Andrea Lewis, of course, he's the president of TAO and president of the Caribbean Congress of Labor. So, viewers, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, please stay with us.
Fit for Life and Allied Laboratories, providing quality care and expertise. Fit for Life and Allied Laboratories, see our in-house doctors and our pharmacies. Get expert care and quality tests. When it comes to your health, you deserve the best. Fit for Life and Allied Laboratories, we're taking care of Grenada.
$35,000 in cash. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the big one, because on Saturday, May 3rd from 6 p.m., get set for the biggest event for 2025, the massive Cars and Cash Mega Bingo at the National Stadium. You can win 3 mint condition cars, a Suzuki Ignis, a Suzuki Swift Sports, and a Honda Vezel Plus. But wait, that's not all. You can also win $35,000 in cash.
Whoa, is this real?
Yes, it is. 3 cars plus $35,000 in cash. Tickets are $60 for one or $100 for two. This will definitely be the event for 2025. Don't miss the massive Cars and Cash Mega Bingo, Saturday, May 3rd at the National Stadium. Brought to you by Carib. It's the way we play.
No, girl, that was yesterday. I can't believe Holly said that. She didn't say
Mom,
that.
can you help me, please? I'm having some trouble understanding.
No, you serious?
Mom, can you help me, please?
So you all sit down and say that? Okay then, bye. Here. Are you ready?
Yes.
Let's ensure that you are well prepared for this exam.
Parents, you have a crucial role to play in helping to prepare your children for the CPEA exams. Help them or seek additional help so that they can revise the concepts they learn at school and give them a better chance to be successful and move on to the next phase of their lives. A message from the National Parenting Program, Ministry of Social and Community Development, Housing and Gender Affairs.
The countdown to the greatest festival begins.
On Friday, May 2nd, Stadium Car Park comes alive at 6 p.m. as we get ready for the official launch of Spice Mass 2025. The best mass by far. Come join in on the electrifying live performances by soca, groovy, and calypso artists. Pulsating rhythms of Jab Jab, Short Knee, and Veku. High-energy steel pan performances, costume displays, and many more attractions. Not forgetting food, drinks, and non-stop vibes. And listen up, admission is absolutely free. This will be a launch like no other. The biggest one ever. Gather your crew and let's celebrate. Spice Mass is more than a festival. It's a culture, a movement, a way of life. Join us as we set the stage for an unforgettable carnival season. Spice Mass 2025. Friday, May 2nd, Stadium Car Park. Save the date and visit SpiceMassBritta.com for your carnival updates.
At Bailey's Funeral Home, we are always ready to respond to your call.
And we are here, whether you have a question or need comforting words.
We help to make what is usually a difficult time less challenging for you and your family.
By taking care of your loved ones, treating them with honor, dignity, and respect as we would our own family.
We assist you in making all the necessary arrangements for that final goodbye and help you along the way.
We are committed to you, providing you with the best service, quality products at the lowest prices.
We stand with you from beginning to end as a pillar of strength, comfort, and support.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for choosing Bailey's Funeral Home, the perfect tribute any family can afford.
Welcome back, viewers, and as we indicated earlier before we went on a break that we have two special guests with us this evening. As you know, we're in the Labor Day situation, environment. Labor Day is tomorrow, and we have joining us this evening to talk that and other matters, Senator the Honorable Andre Lewis, who represents Labor in the Senate, He's the president of GTAWU as well as the president of the Caribbean Congress of Labour. And to my right, the lovely Daisy Hazzard, who the last time when she was here wasn't president yet, and now she's president of PWU, right?
Yes.
So Daisy, congratulations.
Thank you
of
so
course.
much.
And General Secretary
Of
of TUC. Ah, well, you see, more work requires more
more woman power.
More woman power. I'm fully in support. So let's get into it. I mean, Andrea, let me start with you first, if you don't mind.
No.
When you look at the situation in the labor climate in Grenada, what would you say is the state of play? We calm, we not so calm, or we having issues? What is your take?
Well, we have issues, but the atmosphere on the surface reflect, well, certainly more than the surface. If we were to do a comparison of about 4 years ago, it's different. It is not as toxic. It is not confrontational as it was, because a number of the major national issues have been resolved and partially resolved. The question of pension, the question of the dock pay, but what remains is the issue of the failure to make workers permanent, the issue of bypassing the trade union movement by the government to engage directly with members is a clear sign to us of trying to deunionize the workplace. We have had the issue with, for the first time in our history, and I'm aware of, the withholding of union dues.
Yes, I heard about
right?
that.
That's a major matter. So you see, on the surface, it appears as though when one compares that with the toxic relation on practical and obvious reasons that we are dealing with, there's a more subtle approach that is happening. But hold on the question on the private sector, because I'm speaking about the government. I mean, you have the issue of the Green fiasco that is brewing. And then when labor takes industrial action, what we hear is that we're quick to jump the gun. But industrial action have two sides to it, the labor and the employer. When the employer does what they do, because it does not disrupt the national economy or work, it does not come across as something that is dread, that is rigid, right? So we have also seen that a number of employers, not you, Chris, well, I know that happy retirement, okay, we have always had a good relationship, right? And I will start by wishing you once again happy retirement. And I'm being specific as it relates to your engagement with your former place of work, not the other services that you may provide for the other employers, I want to be clear on this, but on your relationship with us in your place of work is a model that other employers can follow. And I hope as you continue to serve the private sector, in whatever form you may do in the industrial relation, you allow that to be your mantra, right? So what we have seen is that certain elements of the private sector, when the NDCs in government feels that they have more road to run to attack labor. We have seen that what happened with the Green Breweries in 2011, 2012. We have seen what happened with the attempt to take away the profit share from Hubbard's workers. Yes? We have seen what Greenlec is attempting right now. And bearing in mind that Greenlec from 2022, 2021, 22, is majority owned by the state. So this is not a WRB private sector.
And I'm hearing something happening in ESG as well.
Yes. So in other words, what I'm saying, Chris, is that people on your side, and I see your side as a former private sector representative, normally sense that there's a current that they think that they can ride or wave that they could ride when the NDC is in office. And we are hoping in the labor movement that they would have learned, or they would learn from the past experiences, right? We see what happened in Trinidad. A number of trade unions lined up officially with the UNC, and the rest is history as of last night or day before. So we have a more relaxed.
Well, when I hear you saying these things, I wouldn't say the state of play with the labor climate in Grenada is a comfortable one.
That is true, it is not. But on the surface,
and there's subtle things happening.
There are, yes, subtle and more than subtle. And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You see, because many times in life, to make an assessment of where we are, it is normally juxtaposed or compare to recent or further recent issues. And I'm saying, yes, where we were 4 years ago, it was more toxic in terms of the public, but there are several attempts right now, and I've named a few. If you'll permit me, Chris and Byron.
Please, yeah.
We wish to extend to our comrades and people in Victoria. We are facing a very sensitive period. The community have experienced something that no one of us wish to experience for no community at all. And therefore, we extend our condolences to Wellington, Wello, Welsh family on his passing, and to the other colleagues who were injured in the incident of Saturday or Sunday ago. As a matter of fact, the Technical and Allied Workers Union, one of the injured parties right now at the hospital, is a member of our union, a plant operator at Awassa. And we reach out to the community because we will be in St. Mark.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. We'll be in St. Mark tomorrow. And our solidarity goes out to them. We call on all of us to do what is necessary to maintain our peace, to do everything respectful, right? We are happy that we are in St. Mark so we can bring economic activities, right? At the same time, we are aware that it's a community that is hurting, and we are also hurting with them, right? And everyone involved in this matter. So I just wanted to bring that up, up front.
It's important.
So Daisy, let me bring you in this conversation from the point of view, I'm going to keep you now on May Day, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
All right, and what is traditional, what happens in May Day. Unions come together, they march, you guys have fun, but you raise issues in the May Day rally that are important and critical to the labor movement. Can you give me about 2 or 3 from where you sit and where the TUC sit in terms of areas that you would like to highlight in the May Day rally?
Well, I think Comrade Lewis spoke to it, so I can just probably go a little bit more granular. Trade unionism is about relationships, social dialogue. And if you have one of the largest employers in the state of Grenada who is signaling and indicating that we are not always happy to, or we are not always willing to directly have social dialogue with unions, to make decisions about employees, government employees, and that we believe as an administration we can go ahead and just make decisions. And even when the union is saying, listen, we have a stake in this, and there are points of view that we'd like to have considered because we represent our workers, and there's things that we can tell you that you may not consider. And we see the actions of an employer meant and designed to separate members from its union. We can talk about the payment of additional sums of money to doctors outside of a union agreement. And following that, government had to then go on and agree to pay nurses some additional sums outside of a union agreement, and in ways that is not necessarily reflected back genuinely into their salaries, into their pay pockets. But even after doing that, what you found is that there were more dissatisfied workers than there were satisfied workers, because then everybody started a Me Too movement. What about me? If you're going to pay who you believe to be the more critical arms of your healthcare system or your public sector system some additional monies other than what's been negotiated for with the union, what about me? Because if I don't clean the floors, where is doc going to operate? And if I don't run the lab samples, how is nurse going to operate? And so those are some of the issues that we are going to be delving into a little bit.
What about the contract workers situation?
The contract worker situation is a situation that is very painful.
We have a lot of people in the public service on contract.
A lot of people on contract. And the painful thing about it is that there is no one kind of contract. And being mindful that there is framework, there is very legitimate frameworks within which government can employ a person on contract. And we understand that it's a legacy issue that this administration has inherited. But what we've seen happen in the meantime is that more contracts have been issued. And more of the same which was promised that would not happen. And so the question is, even as you're speaking about regularizing, and that is regularizing according to a form, because it's not the kind of regularization that we speak about from union, which is regularization through the PSC. But now government is saying, well, the IMF has said be mindful of the wage bill, and so we have to find these creative ways to employ people. But the scourge of contract work still exists. We must admit, however, that there is attempt being made to normalize it. But even in attempting to normalize it, more harm is being done, because how do you account for 2 or 3 or 4 persons working in a pool together? You entered the service 10 years after that, later than I have. You get normalized. You receive a contract, you receive some monies to make up for a time when you were not earning properly. And I'm here, and the system somehow has not gotten to me first. So how has that happened? And we're seeing a lot of that, even as government, arms of government is saying to us that they are normalizing and regulating work. The other problem that we have is, well, I call it a meritless service, because there is provision for promotion on merit. And promotion should always be merit-based, unless you have to hire a scientist who is trained in aeronautical sciences or something that you cannot find with it, and then you headhunt or you advertise. But this administration promised us that there is going to be promotion on merit. And then you see people helicoptered and moonlighted into positions, crossing over people who are better qualified than they are, more experience, has been there for a longer time, and somehow, overnight, with no advertising, no interviews happening, they get the job. And so there is on the surface, while things appear to be a bit quieter, and there is a bit more ease in labor relations, from person to person, from unit to unit, department to department, there is a lot of disgruntlement and unease within the ranks of the public sector.
So you normally have the minister as an invitee to the Labor Day celebrations. I don't know if she's going to come, but I mean,
or she comes.
Yeah.
I believe Sister Claudette, Honorable Sister Claudette Joseph will be there.
And normally the minister does get some ponging, you understand, on the situation. But the final thing for you before I bring in Byron is, I heard your comments earlier and again tonight on the state of the buildings that the workers are engaged in terms of health. Sick buildings, let's put it that way.
Sick buildings.
Sick buildings. And I mean, I've seen government made attempts to move staff to different places.
It's taking too long.
Yeah, I understand. So I've seen that. But I think that a recent one, again, they moved some people out of the financial complex to somewhere.
Grand Dance.
Grand Dance.
It's taking too
Gallery
long.
Mall, I think it is.
Yes, Gallery
Mall.
Yeah.
So, but what is the union's take on this? Because, I mean, sick buildings is a serious issue.
Well, I am telling you, we are going to be planting a line in the sand when it comes to sick buildings. One of the most egregious examples and hurtful examples right now is within our one of our statutory arms, the Grenada Postal Corporation. I did a walk through there last week, and the conditions under which these employees are being asked to provide a service that Grenada cannot do without is preposterous. It's atrocious. I've had conversations with the chairman, I've had conversations with the manager, and we cannot delay getting people, because people should not be in those buildings. And I asked, well, who is the minister responsible for postal? It's the Prime Minister. Well, then what about the Minister for Works? Has he seen this building? Has he come here? Well, it's the Prime Minister. And I said, is the Prime Minister aware that Grenadian men and women are asked to leave their homes and come into this situation to work on a daily basis? Because it doesn't fall to the Prime Minister, it doesn't fall to the Minister, but certainly it falls under the ambit of the ministry. It goes back to your board of directors, your chairman. We also have the situation with Grand Bacolet. They do not have a sick building, but we have workers there who have not received an increase in pay since 2017, 2017. How can we have people who are providing a service that the state of Grenada cannot do without? Because they provide safekeeping for minors in our country who cannot be housed in the Richmond Hill prisons. And they rehabilitate them and they house them. And some of them have committed crimes that doesn't bear describing. And yet, you are saying that you have to audit before they can be paid. But in the meantime, the board of directors, their fees have increased. So how can that make sense? But let's go back to sick buildings. Buildings are sick across the public sector. If you walk into the financial complex, it's a ghost town, there's mold. It has taken government too long to move them into Galleria because Galleria was leased by government for more than a year, almost 2.
Whoa.
While our people were still inhaling mold in the financial complex. And so sometimes it just takes too long. The ministerial complex, when you walk into there and you look up at the ceiling tiles, literally every floor has mold conditions. And the apart from probably dealing with dangerous tools and tools that can harm you, mold, poor air quality is one of the most dangerous things that anyone can ask a person to live in and exist with day after day. And so our workers are they're falling sick, they're coming to work sick, they're working in sick buildings, and they're being made sick.
Yeah, you know, it's unfortunate because we have no maintenance program for these buildings that government invests millions in, or they get donated. I mean, okay.
Most unfortunate.
But when you
and Madam President, I want to come back to you on an important issue. But Andre, you were tonight. You were commenting on the news on two matters, and I want to throw them at you. One had to do with the question of the SGU staff that are under your union, and the fact that they were terminated during the COVID period. You're saying now that their employment benefits that is due to them. The other point is, and you can comment on that, is the Grenlec Arbitration Tribunal. This occurred, as far as I recall, several months ago, and public, we were assumed that this matter has been settled, employees are back to work, since all the parties agreed with the tribunal, what the outcome of it. What's the status of this, and why is this not settled up to this date?
So let me start with the first one first.
Yeah.
Although I was very tempted to start with the last one first.
Yeah.
It has been a nice flow. SGU matter continues to be a very vexing matter. We have about 30-something workers and thereabouts who did not take the vaccine as it was their right.
Yeah.
The employer said, look, you can't come to my workplace. The vaccine mandate has been lifted.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we are, as of June this year, that will be 4 years. Vaccine mandate has been lifted. The company maintains that they are the employees on paid leave. Well, that can't make no sense. Right? That the employees on paid leave. Right? Because they know that once they officially terminate them, which for all intent and purposes, that is what has happened.
Yeah.
But you know, lawyers make money by giving advice, even if it is not good advice, but they try to delay issues. But the history of the Technical and Allied Workers Union, even at SGU, it has taken us even one time as much as 9-10 years to resolve a matter. La Source, now Sandals, the property, took us about 14-15 years.
Whoa.
Maybe the same, not maybe the same law firm that we have been fighting with, right, that has been advising these people. They ought to know our history. And we are absolutely confident and clear that the SGU must resolve this matter. It has taken much longer than we wanted to, right? Because I know that.
But where is it presently? Is it in court, or is it being negotiated with the parties?
We are still in engagements.
Okay, fine.
Right? Still in engagements.
So you're talking.
Yeah, we are talking, but it's taking too long, right? And I'm using this program to make this urgent appeal again publicly to SGU, a global institution. SGU is a global university.
That's correct.
There's no doubt about it. Right? And therefore you ought not to, and you should not be treating people like this. Right? And they have frustrated a number of workers who have forced them to resign, right? So they can get other benefits that will be due to them once they leave the service. Right? So we have put, it is always on the front burner, but we are engaged even recently, right, as we work towards a final settlement on this matter. The Grenlec matter. Let me answer you on the Grenlec matter by reading the following here for you. Right? This is the findings of the arbitration that was, the arbitrators was Mr. Francis Paul, chairman, Ms. Pauline Hannibal, and Mr. Ruggles Ferguson Casey. Mr. Francis Paul, chairman, was agreed to by the parties as the chairperson, right? Recommended by the minister. Ms. Pauline Hannibal was recommended by Grenlec as a company, and Mr. Ruggles Ferguson Casey by the Grenada Technical and Allied Workers Union. You will understand the importance of why I started so. It says as follows. Summary of findings of tribunal. 1. The series of short-term contracts issued to Ms. Calista Braffett were in effect filling on a lasting basis a post connected with the normal and permanent activity of Grand Lake. Pursuant to Section 29.5, Ms. Braffett should be conferred with permanent status as of September 4, 2023. Pursuant to Article 22, Mr. Francis attained permanent status as of February 1st, 2024. I will just quickly go to this here that I have not done, but in the interest of time. The tribunal orders, that's Roman numeral 8. The tribunal orders that both Ms. Braffett and Mr. Francis be re-engaged forthwith by Grand Lake. As far as my understanding of the English language goes, forthwith means immediately.
And what's that dated?
So I'm coming here.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Right. Good.
But before I come to the date,
okay.
The tribunal wishes to commend both sides for the helpful submissions and mutual respect shown throughout the arbitration hearing, dated the 3rd day of April 2025. Now, you know, in a hearing, you can have dissenting voices.
Yes.
You recall, I said that the panel of 3 arbiters, one was recommended by one through mutual agreement, by the chairperson, one by Grand Lake in its own deliberate judgment, and one by Tau in its own deliberate judgment. This recommendation, an order, was signed by Mr. Francis K. Paul, Chairman, Mr. Robert Ferguson, Casey, and Pauline Hannibal. So in other words,
all and sundry.
All and sundry has agreed with everything that has been said here. Grand Lake, own representative, the nominee, let me put it this way, the nominee is in total agreement with what has happened here. Yesterday we have a state-owned majority-controlled company blatantly refusing and neglecting. And then when we stand up, as which we shall do, at our choosing and our own time, the government has an opportunity as policymakers, as the majority shareholders, this company. We are dealing with a board. Sorry, let me start with the management. We are dealing with a management that has a history coming up on the WRB, who in the last 2-3 years of the company took a deliberate decision to frustrate Grenada and Grenadians and the electricity company. We know where we are now in terms of state of equipment, etc. And they were soaking us many times to take industrial action so that we can bring further chaos in the country. And that is why they never, on most occasions, went along with recommendations or tried to resolve matters on the table. You have a management that has been proven to be vindictive, disrespectful, and disengaging with the workers. The relationship within Grand Lake has been caustic.
Not toxic.
Right? Caustic and toxic. And everything that can
So what is the union's course of action going forward on this matter?
So we are calling, well, I've told you, we have an arbitration ruling in our hands.
Which all parties have to
Which
accept.
all parties have agreed to. And I'm saying, the recommendation, the order, it is not a case where the nominee by the company had a descendant vote.
Are they disputing the results of the tribunal on a point of law?
Chris, what I know is that...
Because under arbitration rules, you could only object under a point of law, not under the decision that has been made.
The company has failed to perform. What we know, let me read this here again. The tribunal orders that both Ms. Braffett and Mr. Francis be re-engaged forthwith by Grand Lake. There's nothing could be clearer than this.
No, I understand that.
Andre, I heard the ministers on record today saying, the Minister of Legal Affairs is on, the Attorney General is on record today saying that the government or Grand Lake will respect the tribunal order and proceed. If this
but
is
that's my expectation.
Right.
But why is it taking so long?
Why is it taking so long?
And what it tells me is that there are contradictions right, within the administration. Right? Understanding the history of the people who makes up the administration, right? Who may find themselves with a contradiction in terms of a private sector and an anti-worker approach, right? But haven't found themselves within government. And this is a state-owned majority. It is not a case where it is private sector, majority-owned, as with WRB. So what that tells me, and I didn't hear the but I can say,
Yeah.
give credit to her.
Yeah.
She has
Absolutely.
always maintained
Yeah.
that the company is wrong.
Yeah.
She has always maintained
Yeah.
that they should obey, and the state must do what it has to do. The fact that the Attorney General has not been able to get this matter resolved, and the Prime Minister, who is a line minister, right? Some may want to say, figure out what he used to do before, but
Yeah.
I'm not prepared to go there as yet.
Right.
Right? The issue is, why is it necessary? And even in light of what the Minister for Labour and Attorney General have said, based on what you have said,
Yeah.
that this is what will happen. Why prolong this matter and create further disruption and possibility
In a,
of,
in a critical service. Yeah.
And the question would arise, it
Yeah.
seems to be a contradiction
Sure.
and a conflict with
Yeah.
internally,
Yeah.
that there's a juxtaposing for power, right, of what should be done, even at the expense of the state.
We'll come back to you, Chris. Madam President.
Yes, sir.
Firstly, let me congratulate you on your attainment presidency of the Public Workers Union. Last time we had you here, it was a contest that was
Yes,
in
it
fact
was.
ongoing. But I want to move directly to something that is very current. I want you to tell us about the recent victory. It was called a victory, involving 5 Carriacou workers. We want to know what led to the dismissal. What was the union able to secure? But interestingly too, that I heard the minister today on the news, the Minister of Legal Affairs, the Attorney General, saying that at the time when this occurred in 2022, yes, 22,
July. Mm-hmm.
When she justified the action of the dismissal of these 5 workers, she did not have all the facts of the case, of the matter, and words that she respects the present outcome. But what does it mean for the union, but most of the workers in this particular case? How did it get here?
I call it a defining moment, and I also call it a shining moment, because in 2022, when the Grenada Public Workers Union rightly took action to advocate on behalf of and to represent members who were dismissed and who came to the union. The union didn't hear about it, by the way. Somebody didn't tell the union. You know, we think these women, these former employees came to the union, brought their documents, and cooperated with the union every step of the way, up to the time that they were paid their termination benefits. And so it's a lesson for all employees. Trust your union. Count on your union. Go to your union. Many people, they were told, these women would tell you that they were told, don't go to the union. You're going to get more harm. Don't go to the union. They will not represent you. And of course, how an organization performs and functions all has to do with perhaps the persons at the time who are carrying out and mandated to. But a union has a right to represent and advocate on behalf of its members. And where these members were unfairly and unjustly dismissed, and immediately we examined their case, and we looked at the Grenada Labor Code, and we also looked at articles that were enshrined, agreements between government and the PWU. We knew that we had a case. And that is why we went before the Ministry of Labor, Labor Commissioner, and we knew at the time that it was going to be a long pants affair. It was the wheels of justice would turn slowly, although our labor code tells you where a worker is dismissed, within what time frame they should be heard, their matter should be heard, because it is about livelihood, it is about bread and butter.
Yeah.
We understand how things function culturally. Yeah. And so I must commend the Ministry of Labor, the Ministry of Legal Affairs, Labor Commissioner, Sister Sparkle Grenade Courtney, for the tremendous job that she's doing in the ministry. And I have to forgive and also commend Honorable Senator Claudia Joseph, because I believe that perhaps in 2022, government was very new, perhaps just a little over a month in office, and here is a union coming out to say that you have harmed our members. And I believe that in her capacity as Attorney General, and also the Minister for Labor, she really did not took the time that was necessary or didn't use prudent language.
Were any consequences for the persons who actually took the action, though? And also, where are these workers? I mean, true, yes, they would have received, I understand, $150,000 plus
$168,600 plus, yes.
But this is, what about their jobs?
They have lost their livelihoods. And the union did not ask for them to be reinstated because, understandably, these women would not want to go back into government employ because they suffered. They were harmed in the public space. You had political activists. You had supporters of the administration. I mean, they beat up very badly on these women and on the union. Myself and Brother Brian Grimes in particular, for simply doing what the Constitution of Grenada asks of us. The Grenada Public Workers Union is enshrined in the Grenada Constitution, and all we were doing is what we are called upon to do. And so these women today, they're not rich. They have not received a windfall. In most instances, it may amount to as much as a year pay or a little less. But that is justice. And it's a moment that we all can use for healing and reflection and understanding that we live in a country that is made up of laws to keep us civil and to guard how we conduct and operate with each other. And so it's a moment that we are very grateful for. And it's a moment that we believe will be recalled going forward in Grenada's labor history.
Are workers comfortable, and this is a generic question, are workers comfortable, they understand the procedure and the process where they're unionized, who to go to, how to get redress? I mean, are they confident in doing this and taking this action? What is the situation with workers here?
I believe that too often, we tend to believe in he say, it say, and they say, rather than being guided by factual information. Information that we can get at the flick of a finger on our smartphones. You have a union, you're paying dues, and you have a situation in your workplace, but you don't want to come forward. And then you say, well, I'm here, and my building is sick, and the union is saying nothing. But the union is each one of us. Because the union has no eyes. I'm president, but I'm still gifted with only two eyes. And so the union function has to work. And we take responsibility for understanding that we have to do more to promote the Ministry of Labor, to promote the Grenada Trades Union Council, and for workers to understand you have a right to report. And that when you report, union takes care to cover you and to cover for you and to protect you.
One caller, well, not a caller, but someone commenting on the program is asking if there were any private entity like lawyers or anything representing the union pursuing this matter on behalf of the
No, the union did not need to rely on a lawyer, because when we looked
or
at
any
no, when we
support,
looked, of course we sought some legal advice, because the Grenada, our union, as all unions, do have lawyers and retainer. But when you read common sense, as someone, Brother Bert said recently, I'm not a lawyer, but I can read and I can distill some sense. So we have our fringe benefit agreements, which dictates how, if you're going to terminate a worker, how you pay them, their severance pay. The thing of a worker just receiving their holiday pay. If you fire somebody and they have holiday days inside, you're obligated to pay them. And so why would you fire a person and not even pay them their holiday pays, their holiday pay? That's theirs. They've earned it. They've already accrued it. And so it's a matter of people perhaps at the time deciding to take some vengeance, or to take actions where they felt I'm unilaterally the boss, and I can take actions that perhaps hurt people. And so we didn't need a lawyer to tell us what is written into our own articles, and to tell us that we need to take it before the Minister for Labor and the Labor Commissioner. And right now there is a situation with a worker who was also terminated, and that person chose to go the route of the courts. Expensive. We do have lawyers who have provided some pro bono services for that person. But now, on the back end of it, that person has found out you must report your matter before the Ministry of Labor within 2 months.
That's the first thing. Okay, right.
And so if people don't report their own issues because I don't want my name called and I'm afraid of what, it's your money.
So there's
it's
a
your
procedure.
Right, it's your
there's
life,
a procedure
it's your
for this.
livelihood.
There's a procedure.
And you cannot be too proud to stand for yourself and to advocate for yourself where the law prescribes you should be compensated.
Andre, we have as much as 60,000 the Grenada labor force. Of course, I'm to understand, you could correct me here, that unionized workforce is estimated to be about 25-30% of the most in the public sector. But clearly, this is the case. The question is, we have an economy now. We call it, a big part of it is the gig economy, where you know people are contract or your skill. So it means that the majority of our workforce are not they're not unionized. You're the president of the Caribbean Congress of Labor, so you have that broader understanding. Where does the average worker stand? How can the average worker get representation? Of course, you're representing, and in the Grenada context, you have your TAO. You have a, but what's available to workers generally? What redress they have? What's the conduit? How does that work for them?
Okay, so thanks.
Yeah.
And thank you for broadening the discussion to the Caribbean and even globally.
Yeah.
The Caribbean Congress of Labor has signed in April, it was this month on the 19th, a memorandum of understanding with the CARICOM Secretariat, in which we are now officially an associate member of CARICOM, which is extremely significant, extremely significant. And therefore, it gives us the opportunity to continue advocating and to advocate at the highest levels. Because see, our fights are at different platforms. There's also, we have the political, the industrial, the legal. We also have the boardrooms, right? We have the streets. In other words, we are not just specialized fighters. We are able to operate in all environments. And so interestingly enough, in the recent meeting of the CARICOM Ministers of Labor's meeting held in Guyana, chaired by our own Minister for Labor and Attorney General, Sister Claudia Joseph. There's three important matters that will be going to the International Labour Conference in June in Geneva, the arm of the ILO, in June of this year. And one of them is what they call the platform economy. That will encompass what you are speaking about.
Yes.
And the majority of CARICOM governments and the labor movement have all agreed that our strong recommendation will be matters concerning the platform economy should be governed by conventions and regulations. There are some employers that are arguing it should just be regulations because regulations is just purportive. You could just persuasive. Right? But conventions are legally binding. No, but it's true. No, but the conventions are. The conventions, it stops at the strength.
You don't get much people signing conventions.
That is true. And but the countries, remember the countries, the countries, and the ILO is where these kind of battles, intellectual and academic arguments take place. And you can see it playing out here.
Yes.
No, I say that.
No, I understand.
Countries sign conventions, but we never live up to them. Establish them in regs.
Right, so we have to. But in other words, they can be held accountable before the ILO, the ILC, where they could be called to answer as to why they have not done what they're supposed to do. And therefore, in an attempt to assist, because they're all workers, right? A gig worker, and I've heard this argument that people do not want job security, they want to, that's not what my research has shown.
I agree.
That's
it's always desirable.
It's always desirable. Yes, they want certain flexibilities, but they want to be able to have rules and regulations that govern both them and the employer.
Certain guarantees.
They want that. They want to have a pension. They want to be able to know that this is my reporting hours. They want to be able to know that they have quality of life in terms of family time, work-life balance. They want to be able to know, not all because a gadget allows you to reach me 24/7, you can call me anytime. We have had recent development in the United States with Uber drivers, right? Are they employers, contractors, are they employees? They're employees, right? So that is the way. And in Grenada, so if we don't narrow down to Grenada, the way we seek to assist, and the Trade Union Council represents all workers in this country.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So that's an interesting
We
point,
represent
Chris.
all workers. We
Yeah.
speak for all workers.
Okay.
And therefore, through our engagement in the Labour Advisory Board, amendments to the Labour Code, etc., we have been at it, at the Labour Advisory Board, addressing matters that will guarantee the minimum wage,
Wage,
for instance.
exactly. It's
the minimum
it's
wage.
all.
And it came out through those
Yeah,
discussions.
yeah.
So that's what we do, and we are concerned about all workers, whether employed, unemployed, because we're all members of the working class.
That's fine, exactly. That's fine, and I'm clearly, we run out of time. Chris, I'll leave the final question in for you with them regarding tomorrow. Yeah.
No. I think the labor movement has its place to regulate as well as to balance. That is clear. And I think employers on the, and I don't want to say private sector, but employers generally sometimes forget that the labor movement has its place. And it's not only about coming and fight for collective agreement and benefits and so on.
Correct.
I've said in many discussions with Andrea and otherwise that when labor and private, or as they like to say, capital come together, all right, and discuss issues of, for example, safety, which impacts everybody, whether you're in a union movement or not. The issue is we all do better.
Yeah.
And of course there must be balance, and we go fight hard and we go negotiate hard and so on. But at the end of the day, employees as individuals must understand that they are represented, if not by the company, but by labor. And with that, I mean, if employees believe that they have representation, we as a country will move forward.
Yeah. We want to give you both guys an opportunity for final comments. Of course, tomorrow is Labor Day. Am I invited? Can I come?
Yeah.
Because I used to be a judge, for many years, judging this March Past, Can I come to Victoria tomorrow? Is it open?
We expect to see you. I mean,
I don't know. We're asking.
Everybody.
Yeah. Well, I'm coming.
Yeah.
So the march starts at 9 a.m. 9 a.m. at Waltham, Waltham Secondary School. That's where all the unions will gather. My union marches up first, and we make our way to Aston George Park in Victoria. And there's going to be 2 judging points along the route. Yeah. And there's criteria for judging. And it's usually a celebration, a joyful noise, even as we bring to the public consciousness very serious matters. But usually in Grenada, all Labor Day celebrations are peaceful and joyful. And I think
plenty food.
And plenty food. So our union, my union, Public Workers Union, will be in Guelph because Victoria couldn't hold it.
In Guelph?
For our after fete.
Okay.
We are going to be at St. Peter's RC School in Guelph, so you're welcome.
Okay.
We feed everybody, we feed our members, we feed the public, and other unions will be spread around the vicinity of St. Mark's, Victoria. And Tau, I think, is going to be the last union marching.
Yeah.
And so we expect
so
a
we
very
have the point and bring up the ray.
Absolutely, that's the point and ray. And so we expect a really great march tomorrow. I know that among my membership, we're going to be coming out in full numbers because we have a new T-shirt and members have flown into the union hall to get it. And so we're expecting a wonderful time. We expect that the speeches we expect that the speeches will be militant, but it's not always about being combative. It's about relationship and dialogue, and that's what we want with employers for a better, freer, fair, just Grenada.
But at the same time, you're assertive, you direct.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
And so we encourage everyone to come out. Whether you belong to a union or not, come to May Day, bring the children, let them see and hear, and people of St. Mark, we're coming to you. We know that you're in grieving mode, and we do empathize with you. We feel your pain. And tomorrow we will be with you, making a joyful noise, even in the midst of sorrow.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thank you. One of the other outstanding matters in relation to Tau had to do with Spice Inn Resorts.
Okay.
And just to report that we're expected to meet with Ms. Hopkins on the 9th of May to further discuss the matter with a view to resolve it, because one thing all employers know, Tau ain't going nowhere once there is an outstanding matter, right?
That was a reputation too, I mean, it's a militant, well, not just militant,
the
but
movement,
the movement, yes.
The movement, right?
Yeah.
Yes, one of the dark clouds on the horizon that appears to be turning into rain in terms of the industrial climate from the government standpoint. Chris, the government has as its lead negotiators or negotiator is a known private sector person who has always created problems at the workplace. Yes, let me watch. Where's the camera? Let me watch this and say that.
Yeah, that's your camera.
Who has created problems at the workplace in the private sector where there were, for years, where we had a number of industrial disputes. Friends of some of the leaders of the party, NDC party, when they jointly represented and fought against workers, they've been able to make their way into the government negotiations now. And I can tell you, all unions, the Public Workers Union, the Greater Union of Teachers, in the public service have already started to experience some of those challenges. Tau, but we are accustomed with that.
Yeah.
Right? And therefore, if anyone think that they can try to run roughshod in the public sector, right, what will happen is that there will be national industrial crisis.
You choose not to call the person's name?
Yeah, I chose not to.
Okay, fine.
I
good.
think because I think it is not necessary at this moment.
That's fine.
Right? But I'm sounding this so that those who know who they are will change direction and change gear. And if the administration is serious about wanting to have a stable industrial relations climate and have a good working relationship with us, they will review that approach.
The personalities?
Personalities, right? And personalities that are guided, in many instances, by deep, deep belief
that
is
the
not
working
best.
class must remain poor.
Yes. So I end by encouraging all comrades to come out. The whole of Grenada come out. Those who view online, we will be live streamed by TNR.
Will be live streamed.
GIS will be
right,
there
GIS
as well.
will be there,
Yeah.
right? So you can hook up, right? It is part of International Workers' Day. 8 hours, my brother, a day. I know most managers can
Yeah.
work more or less.
Yeah.
But that we are enjoying today came about because of May Day, the Chicago Haymarket struggle of 1886. When there was a detonation of a bomb, people lost their lives. So our struggles, politically and industrially, are mirrored in blood, sweat, and tears. The time has come for us to see if we can lessen on that and lessen the contradictions. As one comrade said in an engagement I had over the weekend, comrade from the Bank and General Workers Union, that we appear today not too far away from the days of when our foreparents were enslaved with some of these very settings that we are affected.
You and I will disagree on that.
No, that's okay. I'm context.
We won't go there.
No, we have gone past that. What we are addressing
Yeah,
here, we have a Donald Trump,
Yes.
Elon Musk.
Yes.
Because if we are not careful, we're going back
If
there.
we are
That's the
not
point we are
mindful,
making.
yes.
Yeah.
That's the point. And I guess you can agree that
Yeah.
if we are not careful, we're going to go back there. We are not saying we are there, but we are saying we find ourselves confronting issues,
Very similar.
right? Where,
That-
for instance, a court had to recently ruled in the United States that the White House does not have the authority to get rid of collective bargaining.
That's all the time we
Thank you
have.
very much.
Thank you very much
Thank you,
for being here
gentlemen.
with us. Viewers, that's all the time we have. We'll see you next week.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you, technical staff. But again, everyone is encouraged to go to Victoria. It's Labor Day tomorrow. Have a good evening all. Bye-bye.